Hello and welcome to my Oracle Think Tank Premium Witch profile. So this is a pure Witch deck. I've got another deck profile up as well, which is a hybrid deck with Witches and some defensive plays you can do. But this version is pure Witches, so it's more consistent in doing its specific plays, let's just say. More themed around the archetype. So to start with, we have 4 copies of Sky Witch Coco. So Sky Witch Coco is very helpful in that it's a 3+1 if you ride on top of grade 2. And also the skill, the other skill it has is that it can Soul Blast a grade 3, which by the way they've made a grade 2 which treats itself as a grade 3 in your soul. So you can use that card to help get it off in turn 3. And what it does is it draws 2 cards and then you can turn any amount of witches in your hand into protect gifts. So very helpful skill. If you ever feel like, okay, well you ride up and you're worried your opponent might blow you out or something, you've always got that. But also the fact it draws cards, you can potentially try and find your heal triggers as well to G-Guard into Ichikishima. So it's helpful for that. And since it's premium format as well, rather than V-Premium, this makes a better ride target as well, because usually this card, which is 4 copies of Benetwait Witch Yo-Yo, you don't really want to ride this on Vanguard because you're striding anyway more often. So having this on front of a Rearguard Circle rather than Vanguard Circle adds more value to Coco, who, at least even if you don't use the Act main phase skill, let's just say you're still getting the 3+1, so it's not too bad. So Yo-Yo is good in that as a front Rearguard card especially, where you can also on Vanguard Circle, it helps you re-ride a grade 3 witch from your hand, and then you can attack again with it, still having more drive checks. So very good for having more drives in a single turn. And it does require your opponent though having a grade 3 Vanguard, because it has to attack into a grade 3 Vanguard. So that's important as well. And that means you can't just high roll and basically do a lot of pressure on your opponent with this deck. It's not like Susano, for example, which it can do 2 drive checks no matter what grade your opponent's on. So very handy. And with strides as well, you can rewrite over a stride. If you use Ichikishima, it lasts all turns, so when you do ride over Ichi, you still have the guard restrict as well, which is quite nice as well. And lastly, the fact that you're riding as well mid-battle means you're also guaranteeing yourself 2 protect gifts on turn 3, as long as your opponent's on grade 3 theirs, which is very helpful because of what we play later on as well. And obviously with over triggers and restandards and all that stuff, Pages are always nice to have in this format. And obviously D-Police and other decks that can do massive numbers as well, Guard Break. Here we've got 4 copies of Zozo. So Zozo is the power gainer of the deck, so it gives the front row 5k for every protect in your hand. And you can stack this as well, so if you did happen to have this as your Vanguard and then swing and then use Yo to ride another one, you can do the stack again. But another thing that's also good is that if your opponent does like lowball you when guarding and decide to no guard this, you can Counter Blast 1 and draw, which is quite nice as well. And if you combine this with say Ichikishima, it's also pretty nice as well. Or even cards like Floral Witch Master Mimi, also quite nice because you've already pressured out your opponent a little bit on the first ride. So it's very nice for pressure and making your rear guards actually attack for something that's asking for actual guard value. Then we've got 4 copies of Poo-Poo. So Poo-Poo is a reprinted promo, which basically when you ride it, you get Protect Gift and you add your hand, but you have to discard 1 of course. And that means you can get an early PG from that. It's got a Rearguard skill where for every Sentinel you reveal, it gains 5k power. So it's similar to Zozo, except Zozo's only locked behind Imaginary Gift Protect, whereas this card applies to all Sentinels, so it includes your Perfect Guards and Crit Sentinels that you may play in your main deck, as well as your Protect. So this card will always be able to gain more power than this card can. And so it's very good as well for early game rush if you do happen to open Sentinels. So it's not too bad for that reason. It kind of helps to at least provide some aggression to the deck. And then you've got 4 copies of Tete. So Tete is useful for shield because it can get around some insane guard abilities. You can intercept with it as well. So if you're ever worried about like Sentinel restricts or Battle Doors or Silent Tom, Ichikishima combos, of course you won't need to because you play Protect Gifts. Maybe Popo. Then you've always got this card, and it's also free as well because when you discard it, you can Soul Blast and call it back, so you're not losing a hand. So when you're using Yo-Yo with it, it makes it feel free. If you're using Floral Witch Master Mimi, it feels free as well. You're not even discarding a card to do your opponent a damage or discard 2, even making your opponent discard 2. So this card is very nice for value reasons. However, it does get in the way because you've got Yo-Yo, which you want on your front row Rearguard Circle, and you do have also you've got Cobalt Witch Poo Poo, which gains power as well. And if you want to attack with that, then that means you can't call this as an Inceptor. Or even if you did discard this, then you're just putting it to your back row probably, which is a grade 2. So it's not really the best card to put in your in your back row. So there are some conflicts there. So you kind of have to pick between offense and defense if you want to intercept with this, and if you want to make use of your plus. But this is also very good in the early game, because in the early game you're definitely going to be okay with calling this, especially when you're using Poo Poo, who has an on-ride discard as well to trigger this card's skill. And same with Amano Murokuma, which we'll get to later, which is a grade 3 search, of course. Then we've got Sea Blue Witch Nini. So this is the grade 2 that treats itself as a grade 3 when it's in your soul. But it also has another ability where it can move into your soul and then look at the top 3 and rearrange those cards. So this is good with Sky Witch Coco, because you can basically make sure that the last card is a trigger. So you can do some drive checks with that and draw the stuff that you want to draw better. And also it's not Count Blast or anything, so it's free, which makes it even nicer. So it's a useful card, and it can set up other things as well, like your damage triggers, which is helpful, especially against Nightmare Dolls. And then there's 4 copies of Amano Murakumo. So as I mentioned, you can always discard the Tete with it to Superior Core by using this. But just remember, you need to have a Witch Vanguard, so you can't do it if you're riding this. You have to ride into your Witch Vanguard to pull that off. But this card's good because it searches for grade 3s, and we play 12 grade 3 witches, plus we play Heal Guardians, so there's a lot of targets for this to hit. So this is definitely, this is like the best generate card you could put in this deck, to be fair, if you want to make your deck like always work. And then you've got Moo, which is a very similar card, but it has more search targets because it can search any of the grade 3 normal units that we play, which is all the witches. But it can also search for like grade 2s as well, or another copy of itself. So you check top 5 by resting this, and you can Soul Blast 1 and basically look at top 5. You choose up to 3 cards of witch and reveal them, and then you can pick one out of your hand. And obviously that's a once per turn act skill, so you can, sorry, it's not once per turn actually. If you do play a card like, say for example, it's Salter, and you discard or place it and then you restand this, you can actually use this card multiple times. It's an act skill, so you can keep reusing it, is the point I'm trying to make. Even on the next turn, you can just go back to stand and draw and then use it again, and then you're all of a sudden making a profit by placing this card. So the earlier you draw this card, the better. Just like Yellow Bolt back in the day, another card that you want to draw early on to get long-term value because you're always incrementally gaining from it. But yeah, this is crazy for that reason. And also you can, even if you saw 3 witches, you don't have to show them to your opponent. You can show them less, because what happens is if you show them less than 3, you have to soul charge this in, which is useful sometimes, because what you might find is you've burnt through your soul really fast. And because of that, you decide, okay, well, I'll just soul charge it in, and then I'll use maybe another copy of this card again. You can even search into more copies of this if you want, and just keep on spamming it and deck thinning with it, which is kind of a cool little gimmick as well you can do. So you can do some deck filtering with this card, sort of like Magical Calico. And then we've got the starting Vanguard. So here we have Lozenge Magus, which is my my preferred starter, because look at it, it's an image rare, so of course I'm going to play it. And then we've got 4 Critical Sentinels, because Perfect Gods are so easy to find in this deck that I'd rather just play like a solo 30k shield to see if I can get away with not dropping as many cards from hand, over an attack that doesn't really demand that much shield in the first place. So we have the Over Trigger, because you'd be insane not to play this. It's a 50k shield, and obviously you can damage trigger it. In ODT, you might even be able to increase your chances slightly, because you've got G-Guards that can scry the top card of your deck. So there is that. Then we've got 4 heal triggers. This thing, you discard it so you can actually try and check the top card of your deck with your G-Guards, maybe find over trigger, maybe find heal triggers. In the hybrid deck, there's even more targets that you can find, or even just find general damage triggers that don't heal. Very useful card. You definitely want to play heals in Oracle Think Tank. And the Factors grade 3, again, searchable by Amano Murokuma as well. You can ping yourself a damage if you want to. You don't do it often though in this, but I don't think people are really damage denying as much as before now. And then you've got 3 copies of Toto, which is the Striasis crit. So the one deck that I don't play a playset of the Striasis for witches is in the witch deck itself, which is kind of funny because I play 4 in like any other Oracle Think Tank variant. It's just this deck I don't play 4 copies of because I don't have space. Well, obviously Overtrigger and 4 heals takes up a lot of space, but it's the fact that I'm playing 4 Sentinel crits is the main reason why I end up downing this card, because I obviously want to max out my Sentinel crits because of amazing shield value, and I can add perfect guards anytime. So if not for the fact that this deck was a Protect Gift spam deck, then I would actually be playing 4 of this, because then I would have to play other other triggers here instead, so I can run other Sentinels. So yeah, that's the reason why, and also because Psychic Bird is just too good. There's one more slot in the deck left, so this can be any card, but I would advise grade 1, because as you may have seen, there are only 8 grade 1s in deck. You can play Light Elemental Honley, you can play something like Rollock, you could play another Witch grade 1 or Witch Target in general. If you do ride into a grade 3, you can use this card to Spirit Call it from your soul, which will then mean you have an extra booster, or you can just call it behind your Vanguard and boost again for a second time. But it also has an on-hit, can +1, move to soul and draw as well, so it's not a bad card either. And you can also play maybe Paparupa or something, or you can even play Assault, like I mentioned earlier, which is the Ket Sanctuary grade 1, which I don't know where I put it, but that card is decent as well, although to be honest, I think the fact that you do burn through a lot of soul in this deck kind of makes it kind of tedious to kind of go out of your way to try and restand your back row. So I'm not sure entirely on that one, but you can also use it with your discard costs for Yo-Yo and restand your booster if you wanted to. So is that too. So that is the main deck, and then we move on to the G zone. So we have 4 copies of Ichikishima, because it's very good with Yo-Yo, of course. And it draws you cards, and you can try to maintain Oracle by doing that. Although you don't really need Oracle as much these days, because there's less Oracle support now. Hopefully Premium Collection, though, we get an Oracle Stride. I really want one. Then we've got 1 Floral Witchmaster Mimi. To be honest, I think this could be bumped to 2, actually. I have been in a situation, well, not with this version. I've got another deck which I wished I could go into a second copy with during one game I played. But I haven't played too many games either. But I think this is a card worth considering 2 copies of, actually. Then we've got 2 Momos. To be honest, maybe I could take out one of these for a Mimi. This card is okay. I mean, you can blow your opponent out of the game with it because of the massive power gain, but obviously you have to be a bit sensible, because you can get very greedy and then you just lose all your hand, and then you get killed easily next turn. Or even if you survive, you have like no way of recovering, because you don't have card resources to even play back into the game. So it's very difficult. Although Witches, I think, is one of the better decks to play back into the game with, because they have that grade 3 Witch Yo-Yo, which technically you can just do restands with that, rerides even. So that's always helpful. Then we've got Karma Susano, so that you can basically draw back a hand if you're losing the game badly. It does require 2 counterblast though, so it's quite costly. Also gains 5k in a crit, so that's very handy as well. So this is actually a very good card in this deck. I think this is better in Oracle Think Tank Witches actually than other versions of OTT right now. Like, I would definitely run this, and you know, I think I don't think you'll hear someone in 2022 hyping up the importance of playing Karma Susano, but I'm giving this card my endorsement. And then I am actually endorsing another Karma Susano who got the old school one. So it's free. It gives you on hit. It's just for situations where maybe you don't want to like sit on grade 3 because you want to accelerate your GB 1. Because the problem is with like just sitting there and not striding is that which is a problem I have in my Susano deck actually, because the grade 3 Susano is so good, but I don't really like the first strides, because the only first stride that I like is that is able to advance the game state is Momo, but then you have to discard your hands. So if you know your opponent can guard, you don't really want to do it a lot of times. So this is very good because you can turn into GB1, and because it's Witches that we're playing this in and not Susano, that means that you can use Yo-Yo and still do pressure plays. So this card is actually, I guess, it's not really being held back. It's the best way of putting it, and it's an on-hit draw. So now you've got 2 on-hit draws if you ride Zozo over Karma Susano, which is pretty cool. So Karma Susano's better in Oracle Think Tank Witches, both versions. Dismal, protects your yo-yos, because yo-yo is always going to be in your front row rearguard circle. So this is very good for that reason. Then we've got 2 copies of Amaterasu. It's free, doesn't have any Can Blast cost. And you get Soul Charge, and it's a big 25k shield. And it can also check top card of your deck and stack a trigger, which is good as well. Maybe you can bump it to 3 actually, because you don't really need this card as much in this list, which is Balster Bavrois. The reason why you don't really need it as in 3 copies in this list as much is because you've got no Ichikishimas and no Amaterasus, but this card is more appealing actually with Ichikishima and Amaterasus, the cards that came out in Silver Dust Blaze, because they can reveal top card of your deck, so you can blindly just get a 10k and just give it to your Vanguard with this card, or not even blindly if you're using Amaterasu to stack your deck at the end of your turn, because then you can actually make it planned. But it's very good for that reason. But I think in this variant, maybe you could take this out and just play the extra Mimi, or you can play an extra Amaterasu and take out 1 moment for the Mimi. That's something you can actually do as well. That might even be better to be honest. But yeah, that is basically it with my Oracle Think Tank Witch deck profile. So I hope you enjoyed that, and let me know how you find witches, or how you are finding witches, in the comments down below. Until then, I'll see you later. Goodbye.